Good morning all. 24 hours has passed since the release of that Elite FPL Will It End video. You know, obviously I've had 24 hours. If anybody recognises that Family Guy reference, it's been 24 hours. I say time to reflect on everything. Still meant what I said. Slight difference is that I generally wasn't expecting the this is the truth. I wasn't expecting the comments that I'd seen, as you can see there on the Discord members chat, and then I've literally just put on YouTube and I've seen a few comments there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read through these comments and address them. Essentially, some of them, in fact, all of them, it's very kind that you are understanding from mine and Jason's point of view. One individual who we'll get to in a minute, I'll go not necessarily hard on, but I'll certainly be addressing it quite head on. But most of the comments I've seen has been quite a lot of empathy towards my situation and kind of a understanding that from my personal perspective that, and I don't want to go over the same ground, but when you, like I say, are playing a game which you take seriously, I don't know why I do that, because I do take it seriously, and when this YouTube channel project, whatever, started, and me, Dan and Jason were just uploading videos because we wanted to talk about the mini league that we were in, and then, like I said, 4.5 coming up to 5 years later, we're now involved in something which is much bigger than we expected. In fact, it's not just much bigger, it's 100 times bigger than what we expected. And we never thought in a million years that, you know, since, when did we start this? 2018-ish? Yeah, about 2018-ish, roughly. We never envisaged that we'd get to a stage where we've got wonderful members of the community doing things to help other members of the community get engaged, i.e. Gabrielle Derop doing the Discord Cup. And, you know, the reality is I don't have time for any of it. I don't. Now, Gabrielle Derop does make an interesting point here in a second. I will address it, but I have no time for any of it because I never envisaged, you know, even 3 years ago, that how my life would be turning out. And like I say, when you're a 38-year-old man who essentially is living a life of a student, who isn't in a relationship, has got no kids, and the thought process, a small thought process in the back of your head is, I do want a family. I do want to go into a job which is more professional, or at least gives me the opportunity to be not acting like a child, because I'm sure Harbour Boy will be able to attest to this, or anybody else that's worked in retail. Retail is an environment which is literally for children. I've told you a billion times and I'll continue saying this. What usually happens in retail is that most people that go into it, they do it because it's just a job. Just to get money when you're like 16, 17 years old. And you stay in that job role for 3 or 4 years while you go through sixth form, university, and then it's, I'm gone. Then there are people like me who went into retail because I was desperate for money. I started at Sainsbury's back when I was 21. So my job career was at the age of 16. I joined In on the Quay, which is basically a Wetherspoons, and I was a kitchen porter. And then I moved up to chef, and essentially after 2 and a bit years there, give or take, all the really cool, down-to-earth, hard-working chefs were either fired or they quit. And I was getting sick to fuck. There was this one. She was the second chef, but then she became head chef, and she was called Vicky. Sorry, fuck that. She was the second chef, and there was a guy. I think his name was Mark or John, and they took over from. And his name was the original head chef was Andrew. He was Welsh, and he was a proper full-on screamer, basically. And he was really, really, really good at what he did. Once he was fired because he was fiddling the books or something. That kitchen was fucking insane. I mean, I think the most ridiculous story is finding out that a bunch of doormen came from another club and smashed the place up because they were getting payback on the fact that one of our waiters had accidentally broke one of the noses of one of the doormen. It sounds like something out of the Bill. It's not. This actually happened. But anyway, yeah, once all these people had gone, we were then left with this guy called Mark or John or whatever his name was. And it was just shit. I hated it. I hated working there. So I was one of the more better workers. And essentially, when I say better worker, it's because I'm organised. I know how to manage time. And I think I put it down to my OCD as well. Like, I mean, if I was to... I doubt you'll be able to even see this. Hold on a minute. Will I be able to show you this? I doubt you'll even see this. This is mental. If you look over there, is it up there? So there's my little cuddly toys. They're all up in a line. And if you see up there, which I doubt you can, but you've got a few, there's the elf. You've got some porridge on the left, that's all stacked correctly. You've got some vitamins. And then you've got the porridge in the corner. Ironically, I don't actually eat any of that anymore. But, yeah, so I put it down to a lot of my OCD as well, why I'm like the way I am. And essentially, you know, I was just getting sick to fucking death of the way Vicky and, let's just call him John, was treating me. So I just thought, fuck this, I quit. And then ironically, because I quit, a lot of the other people that were kind of like, didn't know what they were doing with their lives, they were like, wait a minute, Steve-O's quit, fuck. And then within the space of 4 or 5 months, and I was told this by a guy called Dan, and he basically said, because of you, we all then pulled our fingers out and went, well, if he can do it, we're going to do it. So you had Dan, Wes, Tom, there was various other people, Pete was another one, various other people, they all just left, and they lost a really, really strong team because Vicky and this John were just complete fucking arseholes. Anyway, so I then decided to go to college. Well, actually, no, I was unemployed for, I couldn't even tell you. Then I went to college to study media studies. Completely failed miserably on that. That's actually how I met Dan. Dan Bull. That's actually how I met him. I knew of him through football, but I didn't know him. And that's how we started knowing each other. He passed with flying colours. But again, when it comes to education, I'm really thick. I'm not very clever when it comes to studying. I just don't intake anything. I'm one of those people that has to get involved with something to understand it, and then it's like, then I become an expert rather than you read and read and read and read and read, and then you're supposed to know it. I can't do that. But anyway. So then obviously my parents were like, you need to get a job. We can't be supporting you doing whatever. Like my mum was literally paying for me to go to gigs, or giving me money to go to gigs in London. So that's what, at the time, for a train ticket would have been about 40, 50 quid. The tickets were only like about 20 quid. And I'd just get the night train back. So for 2 and a bit years, I was just living off her. And obviously I then got a job at Sainsbury's at the age of 21. Because I know for a fact there was like a year and a half, 2-year period where I was basically unemployed. And then at 21 or 20, I went to Sainsbury's, stayed there for a couple of years, and then as ever, there was just a dickhead of a manager. And I thought, you're making my life a misery, fuck this. And then my mate Dale, so Si's brother, said, why don't you come down to work at Tesco's? Iceland's. So I was like, all right then, fuck it, I'll go Iceland's. Stayed there for 10 months. I fucking hated it. I fucking detested working at Iceland's. Hated it. And then moved on to, because Big Pete, so Jason's closest friend, Big Pete, he was literally outside Tesco's, that was pretty much opposite Iceland's, and said, all right, Steve-o. Terrible impression. I heard you're not liking Iceland's. Do you fancy working here? And I basically said, what contract can you give me? And he said, well, it'd be better than Iceland's. And I don't know, I can't even remember what the contract was. So anyway, I would have been 23, 24-ish. And I've been there ever since. Not that specific Tesco's, but I was at that specific Tesco's for 10 years. And as I've discussed to death in my Total Steve-O podcast, and I've probably mentioned it 1,000 times on here, I was absolutely shat on when it came to progressing up the ladder because of the way I looked. In the words of my mate Coyle, why would Tesco's want to employ a 6'2", 15 stone, covered in tattoos bloke when they can get Mr. Clean, I'll use a Peep Show reference, Clean Shirt over here? And yeah, it was horrible being passed over constantly, even though I was the right man for the right job. Even though I was the right man for the right job, like I said, I wasn't clean cut. I wasn't what that specific shop wanted to represent Tesco's, essentially. Because in Devon, Torbay, whatever, the main custom is old age pensioners. And even though, ironically, the majority of people that live in these places are absolute lower class scum, especially now, Torbay is riddled with the scum of scum, and it's actually genuinely a very serious problem with Torbay. The amount of lower class individuals that don't work that are now plaguing the towns, especially Torquay and Paynton. The locals themselves basically don't want to go into the towns because it is riddled with the scum of scum. And the only reason why these places are popular is because of times like this, Easter, summer, where the tourists come down. Basically the Londoners, people from Birmingham, and obviously up north, Manchester, they all come down to Torbay for holiday. Anyway, so I was just constantly being passed over for promotion, blah, 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 blah. And then when my close work friend, colleague, was diagnosed with terminal cancer and she had a year to live, which I'll never forget the day. It was really fucked up how that all was told to me because, again, this sounds like something out of the bill, but me and Debbie, we would always be talking about an individual that we worked with called Shelley. And Shelley was having an affair with the store manager, Mike. And every day we were just talking about various conspiracy theories around the pair of them and stuff, and just having these ridiculous conversations about what the fuck's going on, so on and so forth. Everybody knew about it in the store. And one day, I remember me and Debbie were talking about Mike. Now, the irony is that I was actually mates with Mike because he was really into... I found out he was really into wrestling. And especially the current product. And I then recommended a podcast to him. The Talk Sport Wrestling podcast. And me and him would just talk about wrestling all the time and, you know, where we see everything going and stuff. And then one day, Debbie wasn't in work, and I'm thinking, why isn't Debbie in work for? This doesn't make any sense at all whatsoever. Why has she not come in? And for some reason, my paranoia went through the roof. And I was like, fuck. Did Mike overhear us talking about him and Shelley? Shit. Has he suspended her or something like this? Like trying to get rid of her? Because now he knows that an individual has clocked onto her and then maybe me. And he called me into the office. I'm thinking, oh fuck, what the fuck's going on here? And he just went, just to let you know, obviously I'm paraphrasing, just to inform you that I've got some bad news for you. I'm thinking, oh fuck, he's going to tell me Debbie's been fired or something like that. It is about Debbie, and I'm thinking, shit. Yeah, I'm afraid you won't be seeing her for a sustained period of time. And I'm still thinking, fucking hell, she's been fired, she's been suspended. What the fuck's going on? And he said, you are aware that she's been having back problems for the past several months. And I went, at this point, I'm thinking, oh, yeah, I'm aware of that, yeah. And he just went, I'm afraid to tell you that it's actually a lot more serious than just a bad back. She's actually got cancer in her spine, and it's terminal. And unfortunately, she isn't going to make it. So I just looked at him and went, I'm sorry. What are you talking about? In fact, only Mr. Reed's going to understand this, but anybody that's a fan of extras, there's a scene when Sean Williamson, Barry from EastEnders, says to Darren Lamb, so Steve Merchant's character, any news today? Yep. BT Broadband phoned you up and said they're going to renew your contract. They're going to phone about 3. Well, I'll give them a ring now. No, they said about 3. Give it a ring. Oh, brilliant. Andy Millman's fired you. Sorry, what was that? I was just thinking about the brand new offer of BT Broadband. Andy Millman, he's fired you. And he was just like, anyway. But when Mike said to me, Debbie is essentially not going to be with us for long, so on and so forth, I was just like, I'm sorry, could you just repeat that? And then he repeated it, and it just hit me like a brick, and I just broke down and all this. Anyway, so once a year had passed, and obviously her funeral and everything, it kind of hit home where it was like, excuse the pun here regarding Steve Merchant and Gervais, but realising life's too short, I'm thinking, fuck. Like, I'm getting shat on here. I just don't particularly enjoy working here. Fuck it, let's go from a personal training qualification. Because my brother, I can't remember the exact timeline or anything, but I know that my brother mentioned it to me that it's basically a course where it costs this amount of money, but it's essentially free until you start earning £2,000 a month, which I'm never going to earn. So I'm thinking, well, I may as well do it if it's free. And did the personal training course, just about passed it. More specifically, passed all the practical stuff, fine. Theory stuff, fucking useless. I think I passed. I definitely didn't pass the first one straight away. I had to retake that. And then the second one, I think I passed by 1 or 2 marks, but it's like, what was his name? Ian? Gary. It's like Gary, the teacher, said. He said a pass is a pass, don't worry about it, just get the fucking thing out of the way. It's like my ex-mate Chloe, she said to me that regarding the police, that her sergeant basically said, just pass the test. When I say ex-friend, I mean literally. Unfortunately, that friendship died because I called her out on her bullshit. And when I say bullshit, I don't mean literally she was lying. I mean in the sense of a lot of her voice messages were just literally centered around her. And one day she did the usual thing that I've got a lot from girls that say, "Why aren't you talking to me? Why are you so quiet for? Why haven't you messaged me?" And I was just like, I'm seen it all now. So literally I just call these people out, and I just literally wrote back saying, "Well, to be honest with you, it's just a Chloe podcast. I don't know what you want me to say." Never heard from her again. So anyhow, what's this got to do with any of this? Well, there's a whole build up to this. So, did the personal training stuff, and obviously fantasy football was part of... Oh, there's the word, fantasy football. We're back on track. Fantasy football was kind of part of my life because obviously I'd done my own personal game that I was doing via emails. And basically, I always remember my mate telling me about this free game. So the game that we're playing now, this free game, why don't you just do that instead? It'll make your life so much easier. "Are you sure?" So we did all that and everything. Anyway, we did all the personal training. That went to absolute shit. And then, like I said, I just hit a spate of depression where I'm just like, I literally broke down in the gym crying my eyes out. Literally thinking life fucking sucks. And I went, I've got to get the fuck out of Torbay. By which point, I think, yeah, me and Dan must have definitely been doing videos for Facebook. We must have been doing videos on Facebook by that point. You know, like literally just... I can't remember how often we do them. It was like literally once every 3 months or something. They weren't regular because I keep reiterating this point, and I've told this story before. Technology back then, 7 years ago, like it is now, you know, we had to have some shitty stand, and it was fucking awful. And video content was just a completely brand new thing. YouTube was still not at its, I don't know what you call it. It wasn't at its what it is now. Basically, this is only 7 years ago, and being in front of a camera and stuff wasn't normal. So when me and Dan were doing these videos for Facebook, honestly, it was, I know I've done this before, but it was mental just talking in front of a camera and just saying, well, Dan would be the host. We just sat next to each other in his tiny little room, just chatting about the Torbay Elite League and what we think about the upcoming games, predictions, whoscored.com. It's all exactly the same. And it's why I get legitimately emotional from that video that Jason put together when he put that beautiful montage of the development of Elite FPL, and that moment where me and Dan are up on screen and he's got this beautiful music accompanying the montage itself. I literally just want to cry because it's amazing how music and imagery are very powerful pieces of media, and I'm just watching it like, I'm not saying it was better times, but certainly it was a time when it was just a bit more simpler, I guess, with talking fantasy football, because we were just doing this for a private Facebook group where essentially we were getting maybe 2 or 3 out of the, I think at the time there were about, say, 50 people in the mini league. Let's just say 50 people in the mini league. And I think of that, 4 or 5, maybe 6 watched it. It was nothing major. I know Cy definitely watched it. I'm pretty certain his brother Dale would have done. But I don't know that for a fact, but I know Si would have. Jason, I didn't even, like I said, I didn't know Jason. But I know Jason apparently was watching it. There was a guy called, someone else called Robinson. I forgot his fucking name. So you had Jason Robinson and there was a Lewis Robinson. He was messaging Dan saying, I'm really enjoying these videos, talking about our mini league and stuff. And there was also a guy called Gary Monday. I mean, I'm sure people that have been with us for this long may even recognise these names. And Terry Roos was coming out and stuff and said, we really actually do enjoy what you do doing these videos for us. Just talking about this mini league. It's actually quite interesting. And I think Dexter, one of Terry's brother, so we had Terry and Dexter Roos. And I remember being in William Hill, like I am today. And they were in there. And I was like, all right, boys. And they were like, hello, Steve. Because they were really good at betting, like really good, like specifically horse racing. And they were like, they just basically asked me, what your score predictions this week, then we'll have a flutter if you want. And of course, like I do, well, you know, Leicester at home, oh shit, but they're not too bad away. Man United on the other hand, you know, all this. And we just had a bit of the conversation. They left, I did my bets and everything. And yeah, like I say, by this point, I'm then at a stage in my life at, what would it be, 31, 32 years old, where I'm just thinking, fuck this, I'm going to London. So come up here. And I always remember the day Dan said to me about Jason. Because, again, if you remember, Jason was fucking, you think Harry, you think you're doing well. Jason back then, it was, I can't remember the exact number, but it was something like he got to 42nd in the world on a Saturday evening. 42nd overall rank. And there's a video where I asked Jason, I mean, they're fucking awful, but I asked Jason, forget Torbay Elite, do you think you can win the game? But the point being is that I remember I was walking, because I used to have to walk to the gym, because the bus which I would get at that specific time would take so long to get to the gym. I'd just think, fuck it, I'll walk, but I'll do a voice message to Dan to pass the time. I remember listening to a voice message, and I remember Dan saying, Jason has got in contact with me. He likes what we do. Do you want him to come on and chat with us about the mini league and stuff? And I went, well, if he's all right to do it, we'll do it. And then, of course, I get to speak to Jason for the first time, and like I said, it's literally the first time I ever spoke to him. I think we may have met once or twice. I do remember specifically 2 occasions when he was stood outside Tesco's with Pete, Steve, I think Si and Dale were there, and Jack Chater, I think, and Nick Brailsford, all Torbay Elite members. And they were wanting me, Steve's brother Pete, Chris, to come out on the piss with them. I remember that occasion. And also I remember going round Big Pete's house, talking fantasy football. I think we were arranging the Torbay Elite League or something. And I remember Pete saying, we've got to keep the noise down because my mates, and it was Jason, because Jason was living with Pete at the time. It's Jason, he's living upstairs, and we've got to keep it down because he's sleeping. Other than that, I'd never, I think he may have even come downstairs and I may have went, hi. Hi. And he went, hello, and that was it, and he just went to bed. This is mental. So, yeah, so anyway, it was the first time I'd spoken to Jason. And remember, this was only on a mobile phone here. You know, set up in the room in there. next door, behind me, or in front of me more specifically. Like I say, we just uploaded videos, but, you know, without repeating myself the same line. It took 24 hours to upload, blah, blah, blah. And then I said to Jason, could we just not upload this to YouTube and just stick it on YouTube and just put the link into the Facebook group? And he went, yeah, I can do that. All right, cool, let's just get on with it then. So he did what he needed to do, and it's like Dan always says, like, then getting message. I always remember our man Dylan, who's still with us to this day, our man Dylan literally writing words to the effect of really enjoying the discussion. And bear in mind, again, this is what now, 2017? So yeah, it would have been 2018 by this point. So anyhow, you know, at this stage, I'm then working for Tesco's down where I am in Hammersmith. I can't even remember what shifts I was doing. It was definitely till 10 o'clock at night. And I was only part-time. Like, I think it was like, I genuinely have no idea how I survived living. I think I was like on 15 hours a week, but I think I must have been doing overtime or something. I can't remember. So it's 2018, and then 2019, again, a lot of the staff, there's a lot of turnover, a lot of the decent staff, the store managers leaving and everything. And then we get this guy called Matt, who, the store manager this is. And, you know, again, I didn't have a full-time contract up here, but I was still looking for gym jobs, but there was just nothing really appealing to me, and a lot of the places were so far away. I'm just like, it's going to take me forever just to get here. Because obviously I wasn't driving at this point. I didn't have a car. I was always using public transport, so I was just like, well, it's a pain in the arse just to get to Hammersmith from where I live. So getting to these other places that further, forget it. So I then was asked if I could do early mornings at Tesco. And it was only like, fuck me, if only I could go back to these days. 5 till 10. But I explained to the manager that, look, I can't get here for 5 o'clock in the morning. I can get here for about 5:30. And he went, oh, it's fine. All I want you to do is come in, get the delivery done, and that's it. Okay. And obviously, 2019-ish is when, yeah, at the end of 2019, if you remember, that's when coronavirus came in. I'm sure it was 2019. That's when there was talk about it, wasn't there? I remember specifically people at work like saying, it's only in Japan, don't worry about it, it's only across the seas, it's not going to affect us. There was various news outlets. But in 2019, that's when I decided to get my car, because public transport for me to get home was getting beyond a joke. Like I said, I mean, Brew was put up a tweet the other day about public transport. I don't know if he was meaning specifically the underground or he was meaning just trains in general, but this is 2019 and I'm just like, I can't deal with this horrific travel back home. It's taken me upwards of an hour and a half and this is just unacceptable. Fuck this, I'm going to get a car. And thankfully my brother just gave me his little Renault. So that was like in September, October time, 2019. And then, like I said, the coronavirus started chatting. And then, what was it? January, February time? March time? Just like that. It all came in. And at that point, for many, many billions of people around the world, life just stopped. In this, was it March 2020 when the no going out came into play? Again, let me know. but certainly it was the coronavirus pandemic. And by this point on YouTube, I can't even remember now at this point what we're doing on YouTube or anything like this. All I do remember is that, was it 2020 or 2021 when we won the FCAs? And again, even the FCAs was just a brand new thing. Now it's like everybody wants to win it. Back then, it was like kind of almost like a new concept, wasn't it? People weren't really taken seriously, but because like some of the big boys have won it now, it's like, oh God, we got to win it now. But yeah, so we won all that, and I think at this point me and Jason were still streaming together because it was actually quite easy to do so, but Jason's industry got fucked up. Absolutely fucked up. And of course Jason was going through in fact, I feel really sorry for Jason, because I could be speaking out of turn here, but he was transitioning into a new job, and he was really, really confident that this job would go very, very well. But like I said, just like that, this coronavirus came in and it just destroyed everything. And so his head was... But bearing in mind, remember, Jason's got a family. His own home. And he's in a situation where... Hold on a minute here. This job isn't going to what I thought it was because of coronavirus. And then, you know, throughout the year of Elite FPL, as I keep saying, we had this... You know who it was. We had a falling out with various members of the community. That, I'm not going to lie, I've already openly said it, and I've had a very, very open conversation. I think I've told you the story before. I remember being in a car park outside the gym, and me and Jason spoke for an hour. Spoke for an hour on the phone about that situation. That hit us. Again, my timelines could be all over the place, but that hit us. And then, you know, we were then still going for this coronavirus period, but then an opportunity at work came up where I'm not getting any hours at work here. I'm not getting any hours at all. No overtime, because like Tesco's always does. Goes for an overtime ban. All the overtime ban there. So I'm thinking, I'm fucked here. I'm not getting any money at all. So I was having to go on any department I could. Whether it was checkouts, whether it was the trolleys, whether it was grocery. I didn't care. I had to do it. I remember doing every single Sunday at that point, because I never did Sundays. Doing Sundays just frozen specifically, because I was the only one willing to do it. And it was fucked up. And then all of a sudden an opportunity arose where basically I was told about this shift leader position coming up. And shift leaders for Tesco's have only been going around for, it's not that long, 6-7 years maybe, because I remember when they brought the shift leader in, the shift leader role in about, because my mate got fucked over. The cheeky bastards, after 2 years of putting him through his managerial course, finally promote him as a manager, and then a few months later they made him redundant, and not redundant, sorry, they made his position redundant and said that you're going to be now going down to shift leader if you want it, which he did begrudgingly take. But he became what I'm like now, which is very bitter towards the company, very pissed off, and just did the basics. He couldn't give a flying fuck anymore at this point because he'd been shat on. I know the feeling, because I'm going for that stage now. So anyway, this whole shift leader thing came up, and went through the interview process, was given the job, and I was like, fucking hell, I've now got a 32-hour contract. But I wasn't working 32 hours. I was doing more like 40 hours a week. Of course, at this point, Elite FPL's grown to a stage where we were at, and it's like, fuck, I've still got to do videos, live streams, all this malarkey. Then got to do my new favourite word, I was obliged to do members videos, because like I said, there were a lot of members saying, deleting it, it's not worth the money, which I find, can I just make this point that I'm not going to name them, but there are a lot of YouTubers, whether it's fantasy football or whether it's something else, where you see what they offer as a membership, and I think, okay, you get some emojis, but what else do you get? And the answer is nothing. There's no additional content. It's just emojis. Or, like in Mark Goldbridge's case, it'll be your comments are read out. Right, okay. But is that it? I think also as well, I could be wrong here, but I think I heard Mark Goldbridge the other day saying that for members, they get videos a few hours earlier, and then it gets released to the public. So it'd be the equivalent of me doing a video. I know I'm patronising you here. Doing a video, putting as members for, just say 12 hours, and then just releasing it to the public. And I think, well, that's great, but is that really a privilege? Like, should I really be paying however much he charges a month for something that I can get for free in 12 hours? Again, I'm fully aware of that anybody that monetizes their, like I said, when I say monetize, I mean in the sense of membership wise or Patreon, that the idea is to maybe help support the individuals to potentially be able to put that money back into the product to make it better for the audience. I understand all of that. But sometimes I think, as an individual who has gone down the Patreon route, I think, well, am I really getting my worth for money here or whatever it is? And many, many millions of people have their reasons as to why they pay a Patreon or a membership. But when people from our community that have now left were all complaining about, we don't get anything for our membership, why the fuck should we be paying $1.99 a month for this? We don't get anything. It does hit you hard, because you're like, fucking hell, these are people that have actually put their hands in their pockets and paid towards whatever it may be. Like I said, I don't see a penny. I haven't seen a penny from YouTube in, I think the last time I was paid anything, or me and Jason were paid anything, it's probably 4 years ago. Because number one, they take a large cut of the membership anyway, and they also take a large chunk of your monetization. I think it's something like 35-40%, something like that. But yeah, so when you get told all this, you're like, fuck, I'm now feeling obligated to now do videos. Now, don't get me wrong, I've said this a billion times, and in fact, by pure coincidence, yesterday I listened to the Bill podcast with Oliver Crocker. Now, he's somebody that has turned his passion into a job. And by weird coincidence yesterday, he was talking about how he turned this into a job. Basically, I'll be honest with you, he literally said, I hate my job. I think Oliver Crocker's the same age as me, maybe a year older, maybe a year younger. And he said, I can't stand, he spoke to his wife, I hate my job. And she said, so why don't you just turn your hobby into your job? Why don't you see how far you can go with this? Because evidently you enjoy doing what you're doing. He's also an author as well. I thought, and he said, do you know what, that's a good idea. So what he decided to do was quite literally turn the Bill podcast into a full-time job. And he's become very, very, very successful at it. He's got a very large Patreon membership. He does, I couldn't even tell you how many podcasts a week he does. He's written 2 books of the Bill. He's written another book for the TV show All Creatures Great and Small. I think he lives in Cornwall, but he travels up to London a lot. That's where a lot of the Patreon money goes to, travelling to London a lot to do the interviews with the Bill stars. He puts on, along with a events company called Misty Moon Events. It's like a little small hall in South London somewhere. He puts on the Bill reunion shows where obviously former Bill stars, actors, come along and just talk about the Bill, and I think it's 30 or 40 people turn up and everything. And like I said, I can't believe when he started the podcast, I think it was 2017 he said, and then 3 or 4 years later he turned it into his job. So this has been his job now for the past 2 years, give or take. And I'm not going to lie, I do sit here when I'm doing this right this second at 09:15 on a beautiful morning, and I think, shall I just jack it all in and literally just beg and just say, I'm now going to be doing this full time. The only way I can do this though is by literally setting up a Patreon and doing it that way. Because the only way I can do this is by earning X amount of money a month. And for me to be able to produce content on a give or take, not necessarily a daily basis, but certainly maybe 5 times a week, I would, need enough Patreons to do that. Do I just jack it all in? Obviously I can't. Can Jason? No. Neither of us can. As Jason said 1,000 times, we would love to be able to just jack our jobs in and do this as a job. Because from my personal perspective, I've discovered what I'm, within reason, good at. I'm nowhere near perfect. I'm nowhere near James from Planet FPL, as an example. I'm nowhere near Sush of Planet FPL. Nowhere near to their level. There are other FPL, for instance, FPL content creators out there, which I personally think are excellent at what they do. If you're looking at the likes of, say, Mark Goldbridge, and I'm nowhere near the level of Mark Goldbridge, AFTV. But I do realise from my own perspective that I like to talk. Yeah, no shit. And I think I've got enough to be able to say that I'm decent enough at what I do. And I'm not trying to blow smoke at my arse, but based on the amount of content that I do per week, whether it is this or whether it is my small little podcast, I enjoy doing it. I have an opinion about things. Right or wrong, I have an opinion on it. And there are people out there that enjoy the things that myself or Jason have to say. But like I said, going full circle, when you've got a life now, like many, many millions of people out there have, which is their income is their outcome, or their income is their outgoings. Like I said, I worked out the other week my total incomings and then outgoings. How much money have I got left over? 30 quid. 30 quid is left over when I've paid for everything. Now that includes bills, food, haircuts, petrol, diesel, whatever it may be. But through all of that, I got 30 quid left over. Now I'm sure somebody is saying, well, that's more than me. Fine. But that 30 quid just goes into my savings. Have I got much savings? No. I've got barely anything. And I've completely lost my track now of what I was saying. Oh yeah. But yeah, when you're in the situation that me and Jason are in now, where you may have noticed Jason hasn't been on screen for 2, maybe 3 weeks. I don't even know why. Now, I can't go into direct details, but he has sent me a message to basically say, we need to talk. Now, whatever that means, it means, but certainly it's not I read that and think, okay, what's going on here? But when we now dive into these messages that were sent in, and like I said, I did make a point on the video that I did yesterday that, look, this isn't a video in which I want people, writing in messages where it's, sympathy. I just want people to understand that at the end of the day, when you're taking something seriously and it just seems that everything goes against you, no matter what it is. But I've said it for years, that in fantasy football, when it comes to differentials, logical differentials, and they do what they do, i.e. missing penalties, and you have to produce content, it's fucking horrible. I don't like it. I'm not going to name them, but an individual, they kind of glossed over the fact that Salah missed a penalty. I'm thinking, you should be pissed off. And it's why I don't consume their content, because it's just, okay, someone could argue, well, maybe you should just approach the game like this. Well, yeah, you're right, but that's not me as a character. And when this person was just basically like, yeah, Salah missed a penalty, you're just like, yeah, but he's a major differential in your team here, and you're someone that does very well at the game. You should be fucking raging. It was just, yeah, whatever. Warfare. I don't blame you, I completely understand it. Also, creating content regularly is a bloody hard job when you balance it with other things you need to do in your life. Precisely. For me, I like it here, the Elite FPL community. I've met quite a few people I like, and that's why I've been here for years. I wouldn't listen to moaners, like you said. You can't. Oh, this is referring to people that may moan about me or whatever. I wouldn't listen to the moaners, like you said. You can't please everyone, so screw them. Just be yourself and do what you can when you can. If some decide to leave, let them. Who cares? And well, this is it. This I think the difference with me being an arsehole when it comes to people in my actual life, I will just use Chloe as the example here, of someone who, they were part of my life for a year, and then all of a sudden it's just, I'm not going to talk to you anymore. Why? Because I've basically called you out. Right, okay, fine, whatever. But with people that are on Patreon, or in this case membership, when they're kind of putting money towards something $1.99 in this case, like I said, you feel really guilty. You're like, fuck, that person's left the membership. There's clearly a reason why is this? But the reality of the situation, like Warfare says, I should have the attitude of, like I do with, ironically, real people that I know in real life, which is fuck them. Like Coyle would always used to say, fuck him. Gabriel DeRop, it's been a rough/busy year for some of us, whether it's FPL-wise or real life. Absolutely. And we never know which one of the two is the reason that sometimes people just disappear. So what that's referring to is the fact that I was mentioning with individuals with Elite FPL, is that at the start of the season you see X amount of people, and then towards the end of the season, because they're having a bad season, they just disappear. My point was being that these people can do that. They can just vanish off the face of the planet, come back the following year. People like myself and Jason kind of are obligated to speak in front of a webcam and chat about how we're feeling about some shitty game week where some dickhead has missed a penalty when he never misses penalties, or has a penalty saved when he never has penalty saved. It's fucking horrible. And especially when you do it live stream and you get the amount of people in chat just literally just with the laughing emoji or whatever. It's just like, I can't deal with this shit. Off. And that's all good. Even though it feels strange to all of a sudden not see a regular around anymore, we should be here for the fun and enjoyment, not as an obligation. Same goes for you content creators. When it starts feeling like a burden, it's time to reassess some things. That's why I appreciate the video very much. I might be taking a -8 this week. Just do it. Yeah, again, I've had that. Again, the video that I did yesterday, I reiterate this point, wasn't me saying I'm leaving Elite FPL, I can't do this anymore, but it was just trying to make a point that it is a bit of a struggle with my life at the moment, working around doing that, having stress in the real life, and then coming onto a video at trying to do it at some point which is convenient to myself, where I've got 5 minutes to or in this case, however long, an hour to myself to chat shit about whatever. Whether I enjoy it or not, in the back of my head I'm thinking, work. Like I keep saying, a lot of people that watch content or whatever, they're doing it in their own leisure time. Me, doing this now, all I'm thinking is, got work in a minute. It's the only time I can do this though. Karma Baby here saying when you are the one producing the vast majority of the content, it's natural to feel burnt out with it. I think Elite FPL needs a variety of contributors from the community to help out more with the content and share the burden. It might turn out to be more enjoyable for you that way. Doing a watch along stream alone is bloody hard. He also said below here, by the way, the watch along streams where there were like 5 or 6 different people watching various games and giving updates from each game was some of the best content Elite FPL did. Completely agree. The problem with that though is that, like with a lot of us, our lives are changing, and I don't know why, but back when we were doing that, people seem to have the time spare to do those cover a game or whatever. Now, when me and Jason put out the message, whether it's in the moderator group, usually it's in the moderator group because, without sounding disrespectful, but they're the ones that we're going to trust, because they're moderators at the end of the day. The majority, unfortunately, would say, I'm unavailable. There's nothing we can do about it, nothing you can do about it. But when it gets to the point of every single weekday, it's can't do it. Like I said about inviting content creators onto the show, when you've been told no 1,000 times, you just give up. And it's the same with you could apply it to asking a girl out. You keep asking, you keep getting turned down every single time. What's the point? And it is a horrible thing to say. It's a fucking difficult thing for me to say that. It's just the truth. How many when at the start of the season when me and Jason were doing the call-ins, just the call-ins, how many people were able to come on? Max Roberts, that's it. It's the only person that would come on. I remember specifically one particular live stream Jason did, and he just set up the stream and he said what he needed to do, and then he said, I want to be talking to you guys, so jump in the Discord, and no one came on. Not a single person came on. Now, I'm fully aware, said it a billion times, that with Elite FPL, Harbour Boy was the one that said this. I can't remember, I'm paraphrasing here, but he said that Elite FPL is the content which is regularly there, but you just don't know when. And I hold my hands up and say, apart from probably the Friday video that I do for score predictions and the Saturday live stream at 3 p.m, our content is so sporadic, so random, that people can't fit their lives to it. And I get it. You know, it's why most, in fact, I would say 95%, if not more, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a YouTube, even TV, is a schedule. You know, EastEnders is on at 7:30 every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. You know, Coronation Street goes out on a Monday, a Wednesday, a Friday, and a Sunday at 7:30. Emmerdale, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday at 8 o'clock. Elite FPL, nothing. Oh, there's a notification that they've gone live. Oh, I didn't realise. Or it'll be, you go on Twitter or your Discord or whatever. Oh, Steve-O's going live in a minute. Oh, okay. Oh, I'm busy now. And again, hold my hands up. That's not a good thing. But unfortunately, like me and Jason keep banging on about, we personally don't have the time schedules in our own lives to go, apart from me on a Saturday. We can do a live stream then. Even the message the other day I sent to Jason, the keyword being maybe we could do one Wednesday evening. Maybe. Yeah, and I don't want to keep sounding like a broken record, but like you say, when you've got very, very busy lives, it's difficult. Gringo here saying, you're producing unique and great content. Completely understand the frustration we all sometimes feel, but we are not hosts. Head up, mate. Really appreciate the hard work and happy to be a member and part of the community. And we do thank you as well. And that's it, isn't it? You know, without banging the same drum, it's, you're not the host. Anybody here watching this is just somebody that's, however you consume our content, is just doing however they're doing it. Like me consuming, for instance, Planet FPL's podcast they've just done with Turfy Topper regarding Burnley's being promoted. How have I consumed it? Well, I was just sat downstairs eating an omelette. That's it. Doing a few dishes. And then I've paused it, and then when I've done this, I'm going to fuck off out into the sun, and I'm going to hit play and continue listening to it. It's at my own leisure. But when you are the individual like myself that's hosting it, I've said this a billion times when it comes to the watch along at 3 p.m, it's take Saturday as a prime example. Perfect example. So you've got X amount of people tuning in, and it's right. And again, however you consume the 3 p.m. kickoffs. Now, in my personal opinion, I personally think that anybody that consumes the watch-alongs should be outside walking. Just go out for a walk for 2 hours and just listen to someone like myself, Jason, whoever, doing what they need to do. Or occasionally, like with Mark Goldbridge, I'll watch the football, the actual match, but I'll listen to him because I prefer his commentary or his words, whatever I'm trying to say here. Yeah, commentary, Steve-O. I prefer his commentary to the TV. Now, don't get me wrong, with the Liverpool Arsenal game, I wanted to soak up the atmosphere, and I would just basically put Mark Goldbridge on mute. But I would say of the 90 minutes of that match, I listened to Mark Goldbridge for about 60. For about 60 minutes, I listened to Mark Goldbridge. The other day, when it was Man United versus, I completely forgotten who they played, where Rashford got injured. Completely forgotten. Have a thought on that. And Everton. How did I consume Mark Goldbridge? Quite simple. I was out on a walk, and he said he was going live at 12 o'clock. So it got to about 12:05, turned him on. Got to my favourite graveyard, sat in there, and then I was like, right, I actually just want to get home now and just lie on the bed and watch the game. That's exactly what I did. And then it got to half time, and I thought, fuck this, I'm going out again for a walk before I do the 3 p.m. kickoffs, and that's exactly what I did. I just went for an hour-long walk while listening to him. And from my perspective, whenever I'm doing these 3 p.m. kickoffs, it's, like I said, there are X amount of people hearing a bloke literally say this. Oh my God, Tony scored, I don't believe it. This is fucking amazing. I can't believe my actual differentials come through. Wait a minute. VAR. Surprise, surprise. He's going to rule him out. He's going to rule him out. Commentary saying, yeah, it's going to be ruled out. Oh, fuck this. And then I just sit there in silence. Who wants to consume that? Like, genuinely. Because even though I'm saying this kind of in a contradictory way, when Mark Goldbridge goes silent, I don't have a problem with it. Because there's context to it. Yeah, here's me sat here complaining that there are probably people complaining, or like, oh, why is Steve-O going silent for? Because my biggest bugbear is radio silence. You've got to keep chatting, you've got to keep chatting. The reality is actually, you don't have to keep chatting. On that Saturday stream specifically, you know, you've got X amount of games going on, and you've just got to be constantly chatting over and over and over and over and over. And it is fucking difficult. I can't imagine how difficult it is for people listening in. I really cannot imagine how difficult it is for people listening in to just constant silence and someone constantly saying, fucking cunt, fucking cunt. You know, and it kind of goes into like some of the complaints that we get. Complaints. Jason always gets them. You know, I think you need to have a word with Steve-O about his language. But again, we go back to it. And it's like I had this conversation with my manager the other day, and she said, please don't swear. And I went, I'm not being funny. We're in a small little room like this, and we're in a private meeting, no one's here, and you're speaking to a working class lad, and this is how I'm venting my frustration, by swearing. You've got to understand this. You've got to understand, from my point of view, that this fucking manager that I have to fucking put up with is a fucking piece of fucking shit. And she's just sat there in horror, and she can't believe what I'm saying, but she understands what I'm saying, and she was just basically like, yo, okay, well, out of respect to me then, could you please not swear? Fine. It's the same for me when you're in front of a camera. I'm just, like I said, just a normal bloke that's just gone, start stream. That's it. There's no, I think some people, not all, I would say 99% of people realise that this is just a laptop with a camera, and that's it. It's not some studio-based thing where I've got a producer over there that goes, Steve-O, either 3 or 2, you're live. No. I'm just sat here in a bedroom chatting in front of a camera to however many people that want to consume this. And unfortunately, I need to vent now. I can't do this PC bullshit anymore. I can't. And like I say, it goes back to warfare. I'll say it before I say it again. If you don't like it, just go. Please, just go. I can't be fucked to be hearing about some idiot saying, I love your content, but I don't like the swearing. Well, if you love the content, you know where the swearing fucking comes from. You idiot. And this is the thing, as me and Dan keep discussing, everything is about context. People throw context out the window. People don't think this is just a regular guy in his bedroom and I've chosen to tune in. I've been watching these people for a few years now, and they've always sworn, they've always got pissed off, that's why I like it. But now I'm going to complain that he's swearing. Hello? Like, it really riles me up, as you can probably imagine. A few comments on the YouTube once my mouse comes up here. This is going to be coming on and on and on, I think, on there. Where are we going here? Blimey, there's a lot. Here we are. Right. Karma Baby, playing poker helped me deal with things like FPL. Like poker, FPL is a game with an element of skill, but involves a lot of luck. Yeah, and can I just make this point as well? Me doing this video, and Mr. Reed made this point to me doing videos, podcasts is almost like a therapy session because I'm just getting things off my chest. And it helps me through the process. Element of skill. Bad runs and downswings are just a mathematical inevitability. You have to learn to accept. 38 weeks is a minuscule sample size. Imagine rating poker ability on just 38 hands of poker. Now, at this point, I've got to say I don't understand anything to do with poker whatsoever, but I understand. I get where you're coming from. It would be ridiculous, but FPL is like that. You could be playing the game. Oh, there's more. There is more. You could be playing the game reasonably well and making mostly good decisions, but you could literally run bad for hundreds of seasons and lose constantly to someone not playing the game as well as you are. Maybe you'll feel better about FPL when Burnley are back in the big time. When we're back, we are back. But no, in fact, I equate FPL to betting. This week for betting, I put down £12 worth of bets. £12 worth of bets. How much did I win back? So last week, I can't remember how much it was. I think it was something like £15 worth of bets, and I won back profit. I got a profit of about £7-8. This week, I put £12 worth of bets down. How much did I get? About £3. So yeah, certainly, like, not everything's. I understand all that. Steiny Stein, yes, Steve-O, FPL is an emotional rollercoaster, but the entertainment you and Jason provide is genuinely priceless. I hope you guys keep going because you both have helped me through a very difficult period in my life. And it's funny you say that. It's not funny. It's funny you bring that up, Steiny, because I was listening to... who the fuck was it? There's the silence. I was listening to... It wasn't Planet FPL. It wasn't Andy. There was somebody, I've completely forgotten who, and they literally said those words. It could have been chain wrestling. Could have been chain wrestling, but somebody had written words to the effect of, can I just make this point that because of your streams, videos, whatever, you've got me through difficult times, and I empathise a lot with either yourself, Stein, or I empathise with a lot of people that say that, because it's the same for me, because like I said, I'm just a normal bloke that's exactly like you. When I'm at work, so take Sunday as a perfect example, I listen to Bang Bang podcast, chain wrestling, my own podcast, because I've got to do it for research. Plus, to be honest with you, I'd completely forgotten everything, because my wrestling podcasts are 8 weeks ago that I record them. So I'd completely forgotten anything I'd said. So I listen to that, and I also listen to the Out of Office podcast. And even though ironically my shift was fine, but honestly, it takes your fucking it takes your fucking mind off all of it. And when you're doing something that that's making you, when you're doing something that's making you not enjoy it, but you're consuming something that's getting you through it, if that makes any sense, at that point it's when the content creator, in this case us, becomes, the word powerful is a bit strong, but becomes a part of your life which is making you feel some form of emotion, whether it's happiness or whatever. So I'm glad that me and Jason do provide that entertainment for you to get you through whatever difficult time you were going through. Because like I said, I've been there before. When I lost my dad, as an example, the thing that really got me through it was XFM. The XFM shows really, really get me through very, very difficult times. And I don't think Ricky, Steve and Carl understand, or maybe even appreciate, how many thousands of people, if not hundreds of thousands of people a day, listen to those shows to just get through the day. I couldn't thank them enough for the entertainment they provided me on specifically series 1 and 2, but that's beside the point. Those three on those XFM shows have me in stitches. A shout out to Wern and Blog, the Office and Extras podcast, especially their Extras podcast, because like I said, I'm more of an Extras man than the Office, but the Extras podcast is so funny. I don't know why. I just think that with their Extras podcasts, it's just there's just so many different talking points about whatever it may be, like just going on tangents about whether Andy Millman's an incel, or whether who could win in a fight between Vinnie Jones and Ross Kemp. It is one of my favourite episodes is the where Andy Millman gets stitched up by the journalist, and I've forgotten his name. James, Danny, Seth talks about a moment in his life where he was stitched up by a journalist, and I literally laugh every time I hear it. I laugh my fucking head off, because it is the fucking funniest thing I've ever heard. Just about the fact that he got into a fight outside Coco Lounge with, do you remember, fucking hell, I forgot his name. He was a big brother. He was part of some punk band, the Towers of London. Christ almighty. I was going to say Johnny Rotten there. Johnny Rotten. Fucking hell, he's the singer of the Tower of London. No, let me just Tower of London band. Brilliant. There we are. Rock band. What's his name? Donny Tourette. He basically had a fight. This is ridiculous. He had a fight. I say a fight. He basically said that his band was shit. Donny Tourette confronted him. Seth smacked him. He smacked him back. It all broke up within 2 seconds. And then Seth says how he wanted to make some money. So the Sun said, well, we'll give you 600 quid for the story. And this bloke on the phone was just making shit up, like, so you got in a fight with Donny Tourette, and how many people were involved? Well, it was just me and my mate. So there's about 10 people involved, yeah, right, okay. Were the police involved? Oh, no, not really. So 20 police came over and tried to sort this out, but they couldn't because there was a riot, basically. And he heard nothing from this story. Fuck's sake, I'm probably the only one that finds this funny. Months later, he phoned up the journalist and said, are you going to use this story? Am I going to get my money? And he went, nah, he's not really relevant now. And just, like I said, I deliberately choose to listen to Wern and Blog when I'm going back home. because it just, honestly, it's an hour and a half per episode. It just passes time. And I'm just crying with laughter from start to finish. Because like I said, because I love extras so much. Those boys just, like Steiny Sai says, really do get me through some bad times. Gabriel de Rob, we all love Elite FPL content, but I'd say never feel obligated to those who feel entitled to demand regular streams or videos, or to anyone for that matter. You spoke of mental health a number of times in earlier videos, so hopefully you do what's best for you, buddy. You won't understand this reference, but anytime someone says buddy, I think of one of the podcasters that I listen to, Chris Bellis. Hello, buddy. Buddy. Max, if you're listening, he's from Hull. Hello, buddy. Still hasn't got back to me on Twitter, though, because I want him to review a show. But, the thing is, it goes back to what I said at the very start of this, give or take, which was about 4 hours ago now, but I just enjoy doing these. It's a way of getting things off my chest, and it's a way in which I can I don't know, Bilal said it last year, it just helps me kind of reevaluate things and just maybe look over things that you may have missed or whatever. And like I say, I enjoy doing this. I'm not for 1 minute saying that I don't want to do this. If anything, I'm actually saying I want to do more, but because of real life getting in the way, which it always does, but I always will make time to do content. I'm not going to name them, but there's a wrestling, he's not going to listen, but there's a wrestling podcast I listen to, and the host is brilliant. Very, very good at what he does. However, his podcasts, ironically, are very sporadic, like Elite FPL. And that doesn't stop me from not listening. But when I see that some of the episodes are only like half an hour long, I'm like, He makes this point all the time. My life at the moment is very, 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 very busy. And it's impossible for me to make this every single Wednesday or every single Thursday, whatever day it may be. He literally says that. Work has gotten in the way. I don't actually know what he does as a job. I'm going to guess, this is just a pure guess, that he's a nurse in a care home. That's my assumption, based on the hours that he does and everything. For all I know, he works at a warehouse, and the demands of the job means that he's having to do 10 to 12 hours a day, and he just can't do the podcast. I don't know. But certainly, it is disappointing when it gets to certain days of the week and he still hasn't released a podcast. You're just like, but I really want to hear about what happened, because I enjoy your content. And like I said, it'd be the same for many people that watch mine and Jason's stuff. But like I said, without going over the same record, I will always do something. I will always do it. It's just finding that time, and hence why, going over it again. It's just fitting it in. Hubble was saying, I get through the highs and lows of FPL by playing different versions, whereby at least one of them will go well, a bit like Steve-O's fantasy bets. Yeah. I couldn't do it. I can only focus on one thing, in this specific case, fantasy football. The amount of people that I mean, including yourself, Harbour Boy, but there's one individual that plays, I couldn't even tell you how many different fantasy games he plays. And I don't understand how. I don't understand how this individual has the time to do it. Especially the way they play and they delve deep into the stats and stuff. I literally do not have the time for that. Even when it comes, like I said, when it comes to FPL itself, the only things that I look at are my own thought processes. So, for instance, Liverpool, Arsenal, just take this as a simple example. Liverpool are very good at home. Arsenal are the best team in the league this season. This is going to be goals, goals, goals. And I said it'd be one of the highest scoring games this week. Now, I couldn't account for Crystal Palace winning 5-1. I couldn't account for Salah and various other Liverpool players cocking up their shots. or missing a penalty. But that game could have been the highest scoring game of the week. So like I say, I do pride myself on my predictions. So I take that into account, and then I go, right, well, when I do the videos about the score predictions, I then go, right, well, if I'm thinking this, how does the actual home and away fixtures correspond to what I'm thinking? And usually, not always, usually it pretty much backs up what I'm thinking. And it's like, okay, well, there's a very high chance that this could happen then. So I'll happily do this. Having a goal ruled off by VAR for being offside is just the same as if they didn't score at all. That's why yes, agreed. But from my personal perspective, it's like, if everybody owned Tony and I didn't, VAR doesn't get involved and the goal goes in. It stands for some bizarre reason. It just seems that from my personal perspective, whenever I have a differential, it genuinely feels like everything that goes, it just seems to go against that specific player. That's what I just get frustrated by. But I appreciate what you're saying there. Is this a big one here? Yes, it is a big one. Excellent. Mark Byrne. I'm not as engaged this season, not because I'm doing bad. I'm not, but circumstances at home have changed. New baby in the house. Time and indeed space have become a rare luxury. I watch on the catch up when I can. I really hope you don't call it a day. I'm not. I'll continue watching and supporting the channel as long as you keep it going. I mean, Mark, you've been with us since the very, let us know, the very, very, very early days. You're another one that I know I remember reading comments. As long as you give me the week wouldn't be the same without a little elite in my life. It's like I said, I go back to podcasts that I personally listen to, and I always reiterate this point. I'm not talking about fantasy football. I'm talking about my wrestling ones. Chain Wrestling for me is my number one go-to podcast now. In fact, I use Mark's words there. The week wouldn't be the same without a little elite in my life. Or in this case, the week wouldn't be the same without a little chain wrestling in my life. In fact, I think, now thinking about it, it must have been chain wrestling where someone messaged in and said, I just want to say that thank you to both of you doing what you're doing with chain wrestling, because it's getting me through some dark times in my life. And this little window on a Monday evening in their specific... I mean, I listen to the podcast version, but when they do the live stream, this 2-hour window on Monday evenings is my favourite part of the week. It's like Mag says, one of the hosts, he says, I will never, ever, ever appreciate those lines. And it's true. What Mark's saying here, it will never sink in. Because I can't believe that there are individuals like Mark, Harbour Boy, PK7, Gabriel Derop, and many, many others that literally, like the individual in chain wrestling, it's, oh, thank God there's a video from Elite FPL. Thank God for that. I'm really grateful. Or thank God there's a video from Andy, Planet FPL, Harry, FPL Focal, Blackbox. Whoever you listen to, whatever you listen to on a regular basis, you know that when they release something, it's just like, oh, thank God. It's like Basil Fawlty says, oh, the relief. And it will never sink in. And Jason's the same, I know. It will never, ever, ever sink in how powerful those words actually mean. And, yeah, like I say, with many podcasts I listen to, it's just like even a few weeks back when unfortunately Mags couldn't do a chain wrestling and chain wrestling didn't release, I just messaged Simon and went, oh, is there no chain wrestling this week? And he just went, oh, did you not see our tweet? And I'm like, no, by weird coincidence, I for whatever reason I don't see the tweets come through. And then obviously we all find out it's because it was constantly on the for you section. But anyway, I was just gutted because it is part of my weekly routine of listening in to chain wrestling because I just adore it so much. There's only 8 game weeks to go until you can have a break and recharge your batteries. You'll have a little time and space of your own to maybe sort out your job and your life. Yeah, absolutely. The one thing that I know from my own personal point of view is that essentially I'm pretty confident in staying in London for now. It's because, like I said, I don't want to really be a burden on my mum as an example. I just feel a bit more, well, in fact, there's no bit more about it. I'm just a lot more independent being in London. The things that I know I keep banging on about, I know it's more total Steve-O stuff, but anyway, the things I keep banging on about that I just detest is predominantly the car travelling. You just take this morning as a prime example. The prime example of what I hate about driving in London. It's 7:48 in the morning and I'm stuck behind a car doing 14 miles an hour in a 20 zone. You may be thinking, overtake. I can't because it's too dangerous. So you're just stuck behind me. You're just thinking, by the way, this is a regular occurrence. This isn't a one-off. This is every fucking day. Take yesterday as an example on the A40. 3 lanes. 3 fucking lanes. In fact, fuck that. There's 2 lanes that then turn into 3. So I'm stuck behind a car doing 30 miles an hour in the left-hand lane. In the right-hand lane, I'm next to a car doing 30 miles an hour, who's behind a car doing 30 miles an hour. Guess what speed limit the road is? 40. So all these fucking pieces of shit that are doing 30 go to the left-hand side like you're supposed to, and the people that want to do 40 go into the right-hand lane. So eventually, I'm able to just overtake the car to my right. Once it goes into 2 lanes, or once it goes into 3 lanes, the right-hand lane splits off into 2. So then the lane that I would have been in becomes the middle lane, the left-hand lane becomes the left-hand lane, and the right-hand lane is obviously the right-hand lane. And you just look, like we all do it, you look into the car window and you just like, they're just sat there, they don't have a fucking clue what's around them at all. They're just, move over to the fucking left. It's common sense. It's basic highway code shit. Don't have a clue. Don't have a fucking clue. And it really grates me. I'm sorry to say this, but unfortunately a lot of the time it is foreigners. I'm sorry to say that, but a lot of the time it is foreigners. They don't know what's going on. They don't have a clue. And I appreciate it, but I'm sure in other countries they've got the most basic of rules, and I mean basic of rules here. Keep to the left, and then the people that want to drive fast, shall we say, go in the right-hand lane. Simple. That's one of the few things that I detest, but like a lot of the time though, there are many things that I do appreciate about being in London. Certainly, I will say the money for one. I get paid an extra 92p, so nearly £1 more than back home because I live in London. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. Christensen, do what works best for you. To me, it sounds that maybe getting yourself out of retail industry will help at least. Yes. As you said, it's 50% of your life. After that, take the opportunity to see what headspace that puts you in, and then reassess if you want to keep doing this or not. I'd also recommend running a second team as a personal team, so the team you use for the channel doesn't affect you so much. Yes, it's definitely a thought process I've always thought about, maybe just doing a team where it's like go with the Steve-O gut team. So essentially it's Harbour Boys sheep team, isn't it? So Harbour Boys running a sheep team. And I think that's within reason 200,000th in the world. And I've always thought, Steve-O, go with your gut and go with your gut team and see where that takes you. It's a very, very good point. It's certainly an idea that I thought about, but will I ever do it though? No. Zvonko Kukovica. I'm hoping I pronounced that right. Great content and nice to be a member of it. Heads up, Steve. Thank you. Really do appreciate that. Matt Smith here. Hello, mate. Steve, I know you're someone that will definitely get some of the extras and office references. Steve, you're a natural broadcaster and provide great entertainment. Ultimately, it's a game about... It's a game about a game about a game. I watch for the relatability factor to real life, not about FPL. And again, I really do appreciate that, because I do like to think that me and Jason do provide that outlet where it's not directly just about FPL. Like I said, majority of FPL videos, in fact, do you know what? Should we just do a quick experiment? Let's just do a quick experiment. This is when this is all going to go tits up, I reckon. And I know, in fact, fuck it. I know it will go tits up. But let's just type in on YouTube FPL and let's just see what comes up. I mean, already. Oh, yeah, I can't scroll down, can I? I'm on a completely different browser here. But the first one, as you can see here, is Andy, and it's FPL watch list, players to target, as a simple example. That's just one example. In fact, there's one there just beneath it. I don't know who that is. I think it could be Andy again. FPL Gameweek 31 best transfers. Again, I know this is what their content is, and it's what works best for them. Is the reality of the situation. It's what works best for them. And they've been doing it for years. Whereas, like I keep banging on about, and as we go completely full circle to the start of the show, when me, Dan and Jason started this all out, it was just three blokes chatting about a Torbay Elite mini league. Fast forward 4.5, 5 years, and it's become this just a tree that's blossomed into all different areas, to the point of where, like I say, real life has unfortunately just taken over. Anyhow, on that note, anybody that's watched this, really do appreciate it. As ever, the video that I put out yesterday was not about the end of Elite FPL. It was just me venting my frustrations. And like I said, it feels great. But certainly there's a lot that plays on your mind with people like myself that do this type of content. Cheers all, and see you soon.